Welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. And today's episode is going to be incredibly insightful for anyone managing or building communities. Now, whether that's online or in person, our guest is someone with a wealth of experience in community growth and member engagement. In fact, she was just telling me that she's working to build out a community for women entrepreneurs, which is so exciting. Megan, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
You are a strategic community consultant. You've been helping communities overcome growth challenges and truly connect with their members. It's absolutely an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited to connect further. I've heard wonderful things about you, so it's nice to meet more in person, somewhat in person.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, Megan, before we dive into your work, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in community building?
Yeah, definitely. Got started in community building back in college, kind of on accident.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with a media company who happened to be my family. I was the youngest. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like interning, but also starting my own thing with my sister. And it turned into this pretty large media company where we were all working together and we became this publishing site where we were getting people to, get clicks onto your website where you were
Mm,
just, as the way you were monetizing at the time was clicks, right? And clicks is not a community, but the most beautiful thing happened where community people became community members because they loved the brand so much, they loved the why so much. So they started to kind of create kind of subsets of communities that within like their local town.
mm-hmm.
This community ended up being like internationally expanded thanks to people stepping up and wanting to be a bigger part of the why.
Yeah.
So this idea of monetizing through clicks turned into this lovely way to retain people into a bigger why. And that they motivated me in a way that was like, wow, this motivated me to get to work. This motivated me to, stand for something bigger. And how can we do that for brands to help with the ROI of their needs? How can people stick around? How can you get people to not only listen to a podcast, but return? And how can they connect with one another? I'm using podcasts as an example, but there's so many different types of communities. And that's why it's so fun, the niche of it, because the types of communities you can create behind your band is endless in a way that helps your brand and your business, but also helps
Yeah.
people want to be a part of your brand. So it all happened in college, and fast forward to now, it's 15 years later, and I've helped different brands between career communities, e-commerce, media, like the list goes on as far as the different types of communities you can build. But having that why as to why you should create your business and have a
Mm-hmm.
community behind it may or may not be for every business, but
Yeah.
if it is meant for your business, it's really something special when it comes to light.
I love it. I love that so much because not only were you inspired by your family and then, went deeper into building out those communities, but it's also such a powerful way that the human beings are designed, right? We are social animals and communities. It is how we grow and integrate with the other people in the world. I just finished watching the trilogy of the Planet of the Apes, right? And there's a community of apes, and then there's a community of humans, and then there was one point where Caesar says, I thought all apes were good, but I was wrong. You're not ape. You're not you're not the person that I think you are.
That
And
you
I was like,
were, yeah.
right. So he's talking to another ape because he's like, hey, I thought all humans were bad and all apes are good, but that's not the truth. It's the underlying moral, like what do you aspire to, is what basically brings people together.
Yeah, I love I love that. I haven't seen that movie in a while. I might have to rewatch
I
that.
hadn't either, and then I saw that War of the Planet of the Apes recently dropped, and I was like, okay, I haven't seen the past two ones, and I was like, I don't even remember like how they're connected. So I went to the very first one with Mark Wahlberg back in 2001. I'm like, okay, let's watch and then see what happened. And then the memory came back, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the entire the rise of the first one was Rise of the Planet of the Apes with what's his name, James Franco as the
Mhm.
scientist. So that was the first of the trilogy. I'm like, oh, this is a whole different trilogy. Nothing to do with the first one, which was like a remake. So that's really cool because in movies and in TV shows, and you see the aspect of communities and how people belong to a specific one. There's a TV show called Mom or something like that. I can't remember the characters, but it's about the community of AA people, right? People joining Alcoholics Anonymous because they realize that they have a problem, and how do you let go of that problem? Well, you need other people around you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm excited. I've been looking for different movies to watch and
Hmm.
rewatching some. I've never thought
Yeah.
of it in the community light, and now I've got to circle back on that. I'm rethinking everything now.
I am a huge proponent behind communities because it's something that helped me grow into becoming a podcaster and into becoming my beekeeper that I've been, the filmmaker, the photographer. Like all of these things helped me or helped me get there because of the different communities that I joined. Now, what you specialize in, Megan, is helping those communities tackle growth challenges. And a recent, a, not so recent, but almost 6 years ago, I joined a community. Right, so there were around 800 people. It was all around podcasters, mostly unconventional leaders. Right, it was the name of the group, and within 6 months, that community our Facebook group grew from 500 people to almost 1,500, and it kind of felt like it was not like the core people that met every day during that
Yeah.
pandemic were still the same core people. Like even the new people that joined, not a whole lot of people would join these Zoom calls. So share with me, what are some common growth obstacles you've encountered, and how can these community leaders effectively overcome them and not grow the community too fast?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And my first thought was segmentation because you get to the point where it doesn't feel you can't talk to 150 people all at once. You probably don't want to. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
want to connect like 3 to 5 people, but
Yeah.
that gets harder as your community grows. And so it all starts with your registration and how you're onboarded. But the retention programs that you have really, really help in a way that like depending on your company, if you have
Mm,
retention programs that are not competitive towards one another or helping one another, like
yeah.
mentorships is a great one, where if you have a mentorship program, you have a lot of people that are experts within their field and you have a lot of newbies. For podcasts, maybe it's just like specifically if you're an expert within creating a podcast and you've got newbies that are just starting and they need to figure out how to do it, like that's a very niche mentorship way where
Mm-hmm.
they're not competitive, but they're helping one another.
Yeah.
For the career community we were talking about, there's a number of ways that you can get experts to help share advice on things that not everybody is an expert with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's HR related, and I'm not the one to chime in because I'm not an HR specialist, but
Sure.
having those types of buckets of, and it doesn't have to be experts to newbies, but having buckets of, what is your why within the community? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
exist? And asking your community too, like, what does your community want out of something like this will tell
Yeah.
you everything. And if you don't have a community, that's okay. Like it can all start with an email list, or it can all start with things that are ways, or your social media presence, or your podcast, like share within the notes, email me here. All of that comes to light as far as what your community members actually want out of it before you even, instead of guessing.
Yeah.
And you'll probably then notice that there are like 3 different types of retention programs that can help with the segmentation of how you're not only recontacting them, but how you can segment them into a group. Depending on where the community platform is, it's a little bit different. Like if you have a Slack group or if you have a Facebook group, it is harder to segment. It might
Yeah.
be ways where, but there are community platforms that are kind of like Facebook and Instagram where like you as a brand can market yourself, but you have full it's not you're not hoping and wishing that you're getting contact to them based off of how you post it.
Yeah.
You can be your own white labeled app where you can segment your groups
Mm,
into different groups that aren't overwhelming. And maybe you have a bunch of groups that are 20 people and they're bucketed in a way that's right for them and what they
sure.
want out of the community. So there's a number of ones. You can cohort your groups and how they're added.
Mm.
I could go on and on, but it
No, of
really
course.
it depends on but segmentation and retention programs specifically are so important because then it goes back to the why should you exist and
Yeah.
keep people around.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting of way of thinking. And I've used several different community apps, right? So from Facebook groups to Circle to Discord to Slack to, Mighty Networks like and even
Yeah.
LinkedIn groups. And it's interesting to see how in some communities that I'm part of, they have the different channels. I don't know if that equates to segmentation, but these different channels are talking about different specific topics. Like, for example, if you are using Midjourney and they had a really interesting model, they're like, hey, you got to join this Discord community to be able to use the app Midjourney because it's a app driven or a software driven prompt software or whatnot. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see how they're actually segmenting and how they're keeping the engagement going. And that takes me to the next point. Once you do have these retention policies and when you do have these onboarding ways that you're bringing in the community members, the different expertise, how do you, what are some of the engagement strategies that you can implement? For example, I have a home studio community which started, almost 2 years ago, but it's been very stagnant. And even if I post content on there, there's basically crickets. So, like, what
Yeah.
are some of the strategies that you use to ensure that those community members feel connected and valued? Like, what are some of the things that, as community leaders, we can do to keep that conversation moving forward?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. Like it depends on if you want if your community loves like gamification. Sometimes it's badging them, or
Mm,
sometimes it's creating those retention programs where you can add specific things to your resume if you're really, really helping the community,
yeah,
whether it's free or paid kind of thing. Another one is like, say it's like a feed related thing where like, how do you start conversations if there's no one there to begin with, you know?
yeah, yeah,
You can even have retention programs to creating contributors, like creating a contributor program where you can add something to your resume and be the thought leaders. Because I mean, there's a rule where essentially everybody's not going to engage.
yeah,
I think it's like 90% are, I don't love this word, but like lurkers. And then it's like 10% or 9% are people that are engaging in
yeah.
a way that maybe they've liked something, or
Mm-hmm.
depending on what they're doing, like they've done something very nominal, or maybe they're commenting or they're posting or whatever. And then that true 1%, that 1% is not nothing. That 1% are your leaders and they're
Yeah.
your community members in a way that they are helping the brand. Because if you're creating a brand, there's absolutely no way
Mm-hmm.
to create a massive community, or maybe you even want like 200, or it doesn't have to be massive, but
Yeah.
still it's great to have multiple leaders, and creating that kind of retention program, which for example is that contributor program where
Yeah.
people know that maybe it's like every Monday they're going to post something that's very thought provoking and helpful to community members to kind of talk about something. People love routine, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if there's a routine and set thought leader that's posting something that day, you're not only having people prompt people to connect and engage, but you are also inspiring people to know how do you interact within there. And then slowly you get more people to kind of speak up. Say you can do the same thing with commenters too. You can have a full like retention
Wow.
program based of commenters. Those could be the experts. Those could be the people that are, like chiming in with their thoughts and feedback could also be a part of your resume. Like these are all, it all goes back to the retention and why you're there as a community member
Yeah.
and why you want to support the brand. But those are ways, specifically within like the engagement aspect of it, that they're non-competitive and they both can coexist. And it's not like a forced thing. It's just when you find the right person or right people to be your 1%, it helps then with the 9% of people learning,
Yeah.
and the 10% of people want, or sorry, 90% of people wanting to come back and, may not necessarily go to an event at some point,
Sure.
but will tell people about like those, that 90% might be referring you. They might be like, those are the secret weapons of awesomeness. Like they are
Yeah.
awesome and not nothing, and they're
Yeah.
wonderful. And you don't have to fully engaged to be a huge, bigger part of your community.
I really like that because it's almost like, I mean, those numbers are very interesting to me because I look at numbers all the time, right?
I
How
love
many
data.
number of YouTubers are there compared to how many number of people watching YouTube, right? That number is always going to be 1% versus 99%, right? And then that's what you're telling me here. But the community is, again, most people get motivated to join a community, but then they lose that motivation and they don't have the discipline to keep coming back and engaging with other people. But other people, they're like, hey, no, I really want this, and they're on that journey to accomplish something. Those are going to be the 9% people that are engaging, right? So it makes sense that you have those numbers and statistics around community engagement.
Yeah, yeah. It's super fascinating. But it's super fun. And it all kind of goes back to like the value that your community is bringing, which is all that beginning of why it should start and what
Yeah.
do you choose most important, which is like, I mean, like one tip that I always have for like the business challenge is like, where do you start? Like, what is the value that it could bring the community member?
Mm-hmm.
And it's if you can at least start with one, which is like anything from like membership signups, increased customer retention, account expansion, retention satisfaction, reduce support costs, like all there's so many that like
Yeah.
it's too overwhelming. So like starting with one that's great for your business, but more importantly, great for your community will help with the whole onboarding of like, how are you going to market? What is your
Yeah.
why of the community? Yeah, it's really
I love
special.
this. I love it, Megan. No, the another reason why I'm really fascinated about this topic is I actually have a recent book coming out on the topic power of community.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I've brought 10 different episodes that I've had on the podcast who also talked about the power of community, and I brought those, you know, chapters and the messages and the learnings from those chapters into the book. So it's been a really fun one to put together, and it's a really amazing topic that I love to talk about because again, it's what enabled me to get where I am today.
Wait, is it out or is it coming out? When does it come out?
It's actually out on October 14th. So it is on available on Amazon. I haven't started marketing yet, but yes,
Hey,
it is out.
that's so
Yeah.
exciting. I will check it out.
Awesome. So as we're building these communities and building the culture around the members in the community, how important is it to establish a strong community culture from the outset? And what are some of the ways that leaders can cultivate that from day one? Now, the reason
Yeah.
I ask it is because I created this small community, and it grew from like 10 people to 200 people, but it's now
Mhm.
stuck there. So, what are some of the things that I can do to reignite this community? Like, it's not day one anymore, right? It's day 300 or whatever. Like, what are some of the things that we can do to, all right, we're gonna fire this up again?
Yeah. Well, and so I have quite like so what how are you defining your community within how many is there? How many people are there?
It's like 200 people,
Yeah,
220.
200 people. And so what is getting is it what's your ideal goal of how you want them to return?
That's a really good question. So the idea behind the community was helping other entrepreneurs or podcasters level up their studio spaces, getting the right
Yeah.
equipment. So it's most basically like a place where people can come and ask their questions. Hey, I'm looking to upgrade my camera. I'm looking to, get better lighting. What should I be doing? So that was the entire idea behind the community. And when I built it out, it was around this 5 day home studio rehab challenge where people signed up. They wanted to take this 5 day challenge so that they can level up their studio spaces. And then this was like the community that housed these trainings and whatnot. So I'm thinking, should I go back in? Because we had removed all the trainings from there because it was only for that limited time. So the question is, do I put those things back in there and do I reignite the conversation? Like,
Yeah. And so I think is a great, thank you for sharing. There's so many ways you could go about doing this. It kind of
mm-hmm.
goes back to what does the community want? And it sounds so silly, but simply surveying them in a way, like asking a question, you're not going to get all 200 responses,
Yeah, yeah.
but asking them, what would make them, like, what do they want out of this community? Not only will it help within your like value prop of what the community begins to be, but it will help you then like it's so crazy how clear it becomes where it's just like, I see the matrix. This is actually what
Mm-hmm.
they want. It might be another challenge. It
Sure.
sounds like challenges are very motivating to your community, and that's why they began. And so the questions that are asked within the survey are so important too, because you don't want to just like not get anything out of it. But
Mm,
you also don't want it to be too long.
right.
But having challenges as an option, especially within that multiple choice too, like or having options of like things that you might be looking to launch, well, they'll tell you what, like if that's important to them too. And then like is this like a free community, or is it like, are they subscribed?
Yeah, it's a free community.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's like, what is the ROI of, like, it's also for on the business part of it, like
Yeah,
what are the metrics that help on the community end, but also help the business end? So
yeah. It,
like the
the
ROI is
idea
one.
behind it was, yeah, so the idea behind it was, launch this 5 day challenge and bring, get people to buy the 8 week course so that they can, level up their spaces if they can't, you know, basically giving piecemealing information on, hey, here's all the things that you should be thinking about. And if we want to go really deep, here's a course on it. And that's why I wrote the book, right? That's why I wrote the book, 7 Days to Home Studio Evolution or 7 Stages, which was, which came out this year. And I'm like, okay, now that I have all of these things that I've done, I can now maybe start, implementing it or engaging with the community. And one thing that I keep thinking, is there at any time, do you want to start fresh the community or do you want to remove people from it? Like, what are your thoughts on those things?
Yeah, so okay, couple thoughts. So within the challenge, so we know that that challenges are great, right? And so figuring out other versions of challenges maybe you want to help with, or like it's a year anniversary, 2 year anniversary, we're doing another challenge. But what do
Yeah,
those challenges look like based off of your expertise that you can provide? Second thought is, you did an 8 week course. You can re-cohort new people into this 8 week course. You don't have to
yeah,
do hundreds of new courses,
yeah,
but you can like you can expand your community and segment them into new members, where it's not only great for older members that could help within expert field of they've already taken this course and they can
yeah,
help mentor and talk about it depending on how they're connecting. Like you can connect both of them together if you segment and cohort them. And then also the fact that courses are a big thing too. Another part of the questionnaire I would totally ask about is, are you interested in another course? If it's something that you're interested in as a business, are there different courses that could segment into something
mm,
that helps further their education? Because education seems to also be a part of the cohort that's helping one another. And how can
yeah,
you educate? There might be somebody in your cohort that is the educational course speaker. Like
yeah,
how can we lift up our 1%ers and be part of the community that goes right back into it, right? So the courses and the challenges are really, really awesome and telling already based off of your community, because they want to educate themselves and they're competitive. But can you be competitive in a way that lifts people up? and can you get other community members to help?
Yeah.
So there's a number of factors in that helps with the cohorts for retention purposes, but also the onboarding of you can do this again too. Like if this
Mm-hmm.
is something that's great. I don't know what the process of like getting people in and how long that took, and you even want to do
Sure.
that again. Those cohorts can coexist and they can actually help one another out. And courses are so hot right now, man. Like they just people eat up education, and so
Yeah.
and you seem to be incredibly educational and very smart. And so I'm sure you, especially within your book, you probably have segments within your book that you can course out
Yeah.
to kind of continue that course structure and help with the incentives of the like the subscription or the one-off packages. And that's the thing too, like, is this it's great to have cohorts of free community members that might also subscribe to a different level based off of what platform you're using. You could have a different level that's a subscription based thing where maybe you aren't paying for like segmented courses, but you're
Yeah.
paying for a year-long subscription to get all the things, which is like the multiple courses and content that you're creating that is specifically for paid members and specific
Mm-hmm.
podcasts that might just be for them. Like
Yeah.
there's ways that you can niche it out to be separate cohorts too, that really help in a way that can help one another. But the kicker
I
is the
love that.
community aspect and how can they not only just land there and not like how do they throughout the course connect and engage with one another, and then
Yeah.
at the end, is it over or is it that prompt where you just like they ideally want to just stay connected on the group, and that survey is really going to help like what do they want, what do they want out of it, and then you
Mm.
can create it versus that gut where like yes we all have great ideas but it's really hard to blindly go into it not knowing what they really want out of it.
I love that, Megan. Thank you so much. This has been very helpful and really insightful for sure. Because as somebody who's been part of communities, successful communities, and communities that help me grow, and communities that have up, sometimes you outgrow communities, right? So, for example, I used to be in a local beekeepers association because I was becoming a beekeeper, and after a few years, I was like, well, I'm done with this. I'm not doing anymore, so I didn't show up at these meetings or stop basically communicating. So you kind of like phase out of different communities too. I used to be part of the Anchor community that helped me start into podcasting, but no longer am part of it because I've almost like graduated. Like, so is that
Yeah.
something that I can build into my community that, hey, you've graduated from this stage, now you're part of this stage now?
Yeah, you segment them in a way that's great to their skill set and where what they want to do. Back to segmentation. But
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Now, a little curveball for
Okay.
listeners who are building virtual communities or where they're creating digital content. How could they enhance their workspace or studio to help them foster stronger connections with their audience and community members? Because a lot of the things that we are creating is digital content. So,
Yeah.
talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes back to the platform your community is located on. One of the things that I do with clients is a competitive analysis on different platforms and what they
Mm-hmm.
actually offer. Because if all you want is like visual video and short snippets of things, Disciple Media is a great one for that.
Hmm.
A lot of it does have to go down to like the price that you have, like the
Sure.
your actual budget, right? And so you look into what the budgets are and then what are the offerings between each platform. If you go the platform route that yeah, it's like what does that offer? So we were just talking about like the career community that right before this, as far as like I'm working with a career community, is there a space where you can post job boards? Like there's actually not many platforms that actually have that offering. So that offering is like most not most important, but it's really helpful as far as being able to choose that offering based off of what their goals are as a
Mm-hmm.
business, and maybe it's not now, but it's later to be able to have that offering.
Yeah.
So I think that the number one thing is like what do you actually want to feature? And then do those features align with what's getting offered? And it's really easy to see like what's getting offered, but you do have to do a lot of work as far as like the getting it out of them as far as all the offerings. Because sometimes
Yeah.
like if you're going to the website, it's like, here's some things that we offer, but like the logistics of it and the specifics of it. And maybe you have to be at a package up to actually get that. Like we
Mm-hmm.
offer it, but you have to be, it's like the expensive route. So like there's a little bit of like fine combing kind of thing between that part of it. But what you actually want to produce on the like the visual part of it really, really helps. And you're able to narrow it down between price and what platforms are offering what. So there's like, you know, Hivebright, there's you mentioned Circle, Mighty Networks, Discord, there's Slack. Like Slack, I wouldn't recommend for visuals, right? But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like there's ones that you can immediately negate based off of what the actual platform can do. But I would really highly encourage to look at like just even Googling what the top 20 are,
Yeah.
and like looking at ones that offer specifically what you want to do, and then price point it in a way that you can get and you can go and talk to someone specifically, which
Mm-hmm.
are it's like their testimony, not testimony, they're ways where you can connect to, you know, obviously probably a salesperson where there's some kind of money towards it, but you
Sure.
really learn what's involved based off of the tier of what you're getting into. And so it's a bit of it's some work, but I think that's the best way to know, because the worst thing that you want to do is then create a community and realize really quickly you can't do what like you want on it.
Yeah.
And these features and walkthroughs are free. Like you can go in and like talk to somebody and they'll tell you what it is, and doing that up front versus like retracting after you get the community it's a little harder. So yeah, there's a bunch that are visually appealing on what your needs are, but there's like three or four of them, and then it's down to like price, and how you possibly want to segment them, and or if you're cohorting them or
Yeah.
whatever. So I wish I could say this is the platform, but
No, of course.
it really
There's
to the goals of
yeah.
what the company wants. So that's kind of what I help with, is just like, what is the high level goal on both the business side, and how does community fit there? If it doesn't, then you shouldn't do it. Like it's great. Like don't waste your time though, you know? And it's
100%.
great. You don't want to waste everybody's time.
Yeah.
But if you know that it works, then it's doing some digging between the platforms.
Absolutely. Now, let's move on to the next segment. This has been really great. Thank you for, sharing that. Now, our listeners, the next segment is the implementable hacks. This is where you're going to share with us 3 hacks that our audience can implement. So talk about the actionable takeaways that they can start implementing today. And the reason I ask is, I mean, you've given me a lot of things that I can already start to implement. But what are these 3 practical hacks that community leaders can use to grow and start engaging with their members?
Yeah. So one tip is like your community all starts with a purpose, right? So like figuring out, why does your community exist? What does the community want to achieve? You know, what in this world would make your community different? So it's like the purpose and the why, what's the North Star of it? That's one I would um
Yeah.
definitely point as a tip. There's knowing like there's one tip, like as far as like communities failing, communities can fail really really quickly too, because of like the factors, like if there's you don't want to fall into a certain amount of factors, which is like there was no strategy, or there's a lack of common purpose, or you know you bought the platform before the strategy, just what we talked about. The goals are unrealistic, not aligning the goals.
Mm,
There's not a retention program. Those are all ones where like you just don't want to fall into that. But then another tip is like, how do you build a community? And community all starts with, how I see it, is like a top of funnel. So there's an acquisition funnel that I use for everything, where it
mm-hmm.
starts with acquisition. How are people finding you? Which is like maybe through a podcast or a piece of content on social media or a blog or whatever. That's like the beginning acquisition funnel of how they're finding you. And then how are you converting them? These are all kind of a bunch of tips in one. But like,
Yeah, I
how do
love
you
it.
convert? Converting is not the click that I said with the media site that I start. Like that's not cool story, but that's not it. Like
Yeah.
the click, there's more to that as far as are they signing up online or is it offline? If it's online, is there a login module? What is the product marketing on your website? Or what are you saying within your podcast that you might have worked really hard to create a podcast, but then there's no call to action at the end? Like you
Yeah.
lost them with listen to the where do I go next, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that onboarding, which is the third part of the conversion, where you're onboarding them into either a funnel or everybody is as one. If you're starting out, it might be just one particular funnel where they're landing onto a platform online or offline. If it's offline, you might be getting them into an event or something where they can connect. If it's online, you're landing on one of those platforms that, whether it's a Facebook group or Slack channel or whatever, how are they landing and what do they know what to do? How are we educating them on a way that is they know what to do when they get there versus like, I just signed up and then I'm out,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's one of the hardest parts. And then the last two are what we've gone over quite a bit, which is the engagement and retention. So what are the retention programs from that? So if you think of it this way, if you think of it as a podcast, like if you're creating a podcast, what do you do after that listen? And that's really the true hard part of the conversion into more and keeping people
Mm.
around. But it all goes back to your community strategy, which can fully align with your business goals depending on the type of business. So that funnel is, I feel like I might have too many tips, but like it's just a journey.
It is,
So yeah,
yes.
I'm talking too much.
No, defining that journey and having a very clear guideline on hey, here's the pathway to what we're
Yeah,
offering in the community. It makes a
yeah.
lot of sense.
So
It's almost
having
like a
that purpose.
GPS.
Yeah, yeah. Having the purpose first and foremost and your survey questions to really
Yeah.
like get to the North Star of why you're onboarding, how are you onboarding, and all the things. So it's just a full circle.
I mean, Megan, it clearly showcases what you shared, that you are truly a strategic community consultant. So bringing all those strategies and sharing all of those tips. So I really, really, really appreciate that for sharing that with the audience and sharing that with me, because now I can go and implement these things. I'm like, okay, what am I missing? What's my journey look like? What's my why? Is it even necessary for me to have a community? Right? Am I empowering the people in it, or do I just want to have, I don't know, people, fan base, fangirling on you or something?
Yeah, that might be it. And that's not nothing. I mean, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Not necessarily meant for all brands. So
Uh,
figuring that out is it's fun.
yeah, I don't know if there's a community for Coke. Coca Cola, right? I don't
I'm
know if there's a
sure.
Coca Cola community,
I'm sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I was picking up what you're putting down. I'm sure there is. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, what cohort of people that are buying. I'm sure there is, but hopefully there's segmented ways where you can like,
yeah.
meet not one, but all the millions that
I
are
love that.
fans.
Well, Megan, let's move on to the last segment of the episode. This is the fun 6 questions. So I've got 6 questions that I ask all my guests to get to know them a little more. All right, so the first question, Megan, is what's the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Ooh, soccer. I don't know. Yeah, soccer. Living in London, seeing everybody just be so incredibly awesome, having
Yeah.
like we have 2 kids now, but our like 2-year-old really get into it and like I don't know. I feel like there's something in me that I wish I did that.
I love
I'm
it.
impressed by it. It's a really random answer, I
No,
realize.
it's a really powerful sport, and it's very athletic as well, right? Because you're really pushing the body on all the limits, and yet we have some kids in my son's class who are traveling soccer, like neighbors. They're like doing traveling soccer and all that traveling sports, and it's a really great way to
It's fun
bond.
to
Again,
watch.
that's
Yeah.
another community of people, right? People that play
Go.
soccer, and
Yeah, yeah. And it's been fun too. It's such a like world world sport that it's just
Yeah,
everybody has a camaraderie behind it, and it's just, I don't know, there's something special to it. So yeah.
I love it. All right, next up, what did you want to be when you were a child?
It's silly, a dancer. So I'm not that, and my career has changed quite a bit. But I think I thought that I was a Disney princess for way too long. So yeah, that's my answer. You probably haven't gotten some of these before. I like love to dance.
No, I mean, everybody wants to be a Disney princess. That's why they have literally every race showcase thing. My daughter loves to watch Elena of Avalor. It's on Disney Plus.
Yes. Oh yes.
She's a princess. So Princess Jasmine from the Middle East. You've got Elsa and Anna from the Norwegian. So yeah, there's a princess for every little
She's a
country,
princess.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought I was a mermaid personally, but I don't know how that goes to the dancing part of
Well,
it. But
this that is pretty cool.
we're weird.
Actually, there's I met this lady and she's like, I'm a mermaid, and I help other mermaids
Oh gosh.
find the water. So she's got this entire water philosophy and how we all return to the water. Like, wow, that's really interesting.
Wow. That's next level. I gotta
Yeah, it
talk to
is
her.
next level. I'll see if I can find and I can connect you with her. That'd be pretty fun conversation. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's actually The Untouchables, but the French version of it. I
Hmm.
love. It's like I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like really just ties onto the strings of your heart and just pulls
Yeah.
on it. And I'm not a huge caption person, but like the people in it and it's just it's awesome. Check
Yeah.
it out. I don't even I'm not gonna give a good job of the trailer of everything, but like go watch it. I promise you, you're like it'll give you happy feels and sad feels and all in between. It's
Yeah.
just a beautiful.
Well, I had to read a lot of captions in Planet of the Apes because
Well, there you go.
I'm like,
This
what are
might
you
be right
saying?
up
They got the sign language going on.
my
It was like, okay, I gotta pay attention to the actual screen to know what's going on. I can't be on my phone and watch the movie at the same time.
alley.
All right,
Totally.
next up, if you could play a character in any movie, which one would you choose?
Ooh, any movie? Um, Gosh, I would probably want in a movie. Oh, my response was gonna say Pam from The Office, but that's a TV show. If that was a movie, I would like to be Pam. She's so
There you go.
funny, but like,
Yeah.
people don't really know it that much. Like she's great. That's not the right answer though. Anything that Amy Poehler's in though,
Okay.
I wanna I love
Okay.
I love her comedy. So
Amy
yeah.
Poehler is pretty amazing. She's got some really funny. There's a lot of funny movies for sure.
She's just fun. I don't know. Her acts she almost has like an accidental humor to her, even though I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of thought and effort with it. But yeah.
I think she actually gave
Baby
a
mama.
master
Oh,
class. I can't
baby mama.
remember. You'll have to check it out. I don't know if gave a master class on improv. I think that was a really interesting watch.
And that's like one of my things that I like. I'm not an improv, nor probably should I ever be, but that was like it's like a goal of mine to like get on stage and just get like just say stuff because I think it's
Yeah.
like so hard to and like I think I'm always accidentally entertaining I'm very much of an accident.
Well, what's funny is that it's really
There's a structure.
like my friend is actually taking classes for improv, right? And he's learning and he's like teaching his kids, and it's really interesting how there's this and like whatever, and then you got the
Yeah.
but no, or or no, like there's like three different ways that you can like bring the conversation around or whatever. But it's almost like
Mhm.
you're putting constraints around what you're creating, and then that's where the creativity comes out of.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Tina Fey has a great book about it too. Also a great actress that I would like to be on
She
all the
is. I
things.
mean,
But yeah,
she,
got a
she
good structure on improv specifically in her book,
yeah.
one of her books.
She did a really cool so she plays a podcaster in this TV show called Only Murders in the Building. This show's on Hulu. So she's a podcaster and she's a true crime podcaster. And then there's some basically big people, big actors like we've got Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. You know, they're the main characters in the TV show. But it's really really funny because and I'm really attracted to it because they become podcasters, right? And they're podcasting
Right.
about murders in the building. It was pretty fun.
I will check it out. I've definitely heard of it. I've not seen it yet. Noted. So many things to watch.
So many things to watch. You'll have to come and re-listen to these episodes
Games.
to
Yeah.
remind you, like, oh, this is what I'm gonna see. All right, next up, who is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, oh my gosh, there's so many. I wish I like immediately knew one that made me really excited because I should know that, I feel like. But I don't know, Wonder Woman? I would go with Wonder Woman,
I
right?
think I have one.
Wow.
Do I have Wonder
Oh
Woman
my
here?
gosh.
I don't know. I have Wonder Woman
I,
back there
yeah, just way in the back. Yeah,
in the
yeah,
wave.
yeah, yeah. I wish I yeah. I'm gonna roll with her. She's pretty baller status and
Yeah,
she
she's
can
pretty
fly,
awesome.
right? So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. She's invincible. I'm going with that. That'd be fun to like fly and be invincible.
Love it. Our last game, Megan. If you were a board game, which one would it be?
Ooh. Um, I want to say Scrabble, but I'm really not great with words, but I want to be really, really good with that. And maybe that's why I want to say that.
Yeah.
But like the person in me, the nostalgic in me wants to say Candyland. So I'm gonna
It's
go
not a
with
bad
that.
game.
I love myself some candy. Yep, I'm gonna go with that.
Dude, what if there was a Candyland Scrabble game where you
Scrabble
can
game.
only name candy candy names?
Yeah, exactly right. Get a little bit more niche with it. Get some
Yeah.
experts. Create a community behind it,
Yeah, there
retain
you
them
go.
by changing up the board every year.
Yeah.
There's something behind that. I think we've figured
Yeah.
out a really, really great idea.
I love it.
Booming. But yeah, get it out before Q4. It's
Not another project. I mean, this is hacks and hobbies, so we never know what's your new
right,
hobby. And in
right,
fact,
right.
a book that I wrote for children, it's all about on alphabets, and let's see if I have a copy. It's called A to Zoo Animal Alphabet Symphony. So you've got a giraffe playing a guitar,
That's
you got a
incredible.
zebra playing a zither. So again, of the animal, the letter
Compliments the
that
instrument.
starts with the animal is the same letter that the instrument starts with. So an armadillo playing an accordion, or a beaver playing a bassoon. It's pretty fun.
Well, I've got to get Power of Community, your book, which I'm very excited about, and then this one for my 4-year-old because she's
I love
all
it.
up in the
Oh
alphabet
my
right
god,
now.
she might love the letter U because it's a unicorn playing a ukulele.
What's better than that?
Because that's my
Nothing.
fa- my that's my daughter's favorite page. Is like whenever she shows somebody sings, like, oh my god, you got like a letter U. I'm like, all right. Well, Megan, it's been really fantastic having you on the show. Your insights into community growth and engagement are incredibly valuable, and I'm sure our listeners are walking away with tons of great ideas, and you've shared so many. Before you sign off, Before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to share, and where can my community connect with you?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. Anybody can find me at my LinkedIn, I'm sure my name will show up, and message me. I'm so happy to meet there. risecommunityconsulting.com is a great way to contact me as well. I do free discovery calls. I love just chatting to see a community right for you? Is this, or if you have a community, what direction can you? I love sharing all free advice if possible. So just to meet would be great. And so feel free to, if you want to contact me there too. It's just my website. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll be sure to include all of the links in the show notes so people can get to you even faster. And to our listeners, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Hacks and Hobbies. Be sure to stay connected, and until next time, keep learning, growing, and building thriving communities that truly connect. And make sure, if you're not part of the Hacks and Hobbies community on Facebook, make sure to join the community so we can
Hey,
learn more from you. Thank you for that, Megan. You got to have a
yes.
call to action at the end of it, right?
All the action at the end. And I'm so
Excellent.
excited to see the community grow because I feel like there's so much more of exciting things for your community to do here
Absolutely.
shortly.
Absolutely. Well, see you again. And guys, thank you so much for joining in. And we'll see you in the next episode.